What's up, guys? Today I have an awesome interview for you. I interviewed Steve Raiken, the GOAT, over at RaikenProfit.com. If you don't know who he is, he's been in the game a long time. He's sold on Amazon, eBay, all over the place locally. And in today's video, he talks about how he just hit $30,000 in sales, flipping items from eBay to Amazon. And he only works about 10 hours a week on this business. He talks exactly about how he set up his team, how he's working with virtual assistants, how he has someone coming to his house and taking pictures so the virtual assistant could list it, and so much more. We also talked about if he lost everything, how would he get back to where he was today? It's a really great interview. He gives away a ton of tips and tricks. And go follow his YouTube page. I did a video on his channel, so that will be rolling out soon. And go follow him on Instagram and all the other channels as well. Enjoy the video, guys. With my good friend Steve. We're going to be talking about all his business. We both just crossed the 30K mark. Super excited. We both do online arbitrage. Steve does it a little differently than I do it. He's doing mostly eBay to Amazon flips. So we're going to kind of get into that, how you can get that started, kind of the pros and cons of what he's doing versus what I'm doing, how he runs his team. He's actually has a big team in place. Or a team. I don't know how big it is.
Not too big.
They are doing a lot of the sourcing for him. And I think he said that you were only spending like 10 hours a week. Was that correct?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, a lot of my time's on like growth activities, but inside the business, really like 5 to 10 hours a week.
Cool. So we'll talk a little bit about that and just kind of get an overview of how he got started. We've been talking, I don't know, for 2 or 3 years now, met a couple times. So Steve is way overdue to appear on the channel. So you want to tell everyone kind of your business model, how you got started, and kind of how you got to Amazon.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on the channel. I've been reselling for probably 8 or 9 years. I think 2013, I started making videos on YouTube and reselling and flipping. I started flipping bicycles on Craigslist, moved on to running my eBay clothing business for quite a few years. Then I moved on to Amazon, and I was doing eBay and Amazon for many years, mostly going to thrift stores, garage sales, auctions, flea markets, things like that. And really over the last year, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm hitting my mid-30s. I'm like, I don't have the energy anymore to be hitting up all these thrift stores, fighting through traffic. I'd gotten into a car accident last year, and I'm like, I don't want to be driving all over the place. Like this just isn't what I signed up for. It's fun. I love treasure hunting, but you know how it is. After a while, it's like, I just want to make money like from home. I know it sounds like too good to be true sometimes for people who don't know about online arbitrage, but I was like, there's gotta be a better way to be able to find inventory. And with the business model you had, I guess I maybe had some limiting beliefs about it. So I was like, I don't really want to do that right now because I used to have to like deal with the race to the bottom and all these things. Yeah. And of course, there's ways to avoid that once you really learn how to use Keepa and whatnot, which I didn't. So I was like, you know what? I've bought items off of eBay and Facebook Marketplace before, and I flipped them for really high return on investments. Why couldn't I keep doing that? And, you know, I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know, I'm going to start looking up items that I sold before on my Amazon account over the last 6, 7, 8 years and see if I could reverse source them on eBay, on Facebook Marketplace. And I started doing it. And I think the first month or so, it was like $500 or $700 I did from like eBay to Amazon flips, in addition to my, you know, traditional thrifting business. And then I really dove into media, books, DVDs, CDs, sourcing them online. And I think I might've done like a couple $1,000s or so. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to hire someone, train them what to do and have them do it. And I had hired her and trained her. This was probably like 9, 10 months ago. And my business started to grow and grow. And then she quit. Oh, and I think I drove her crazy because the way that I was sourcing and the way I trained her was the absolute most inefficient, worst way that you could ever train someone to do eBay to Amazon flips. I mean, I literally had her logged into my Amazon seller account on my, like the Amazon seller app. And she would be going through the newly listed items and using the camera feature on the phone to scan the cover through the computer, because I didn't know anything about like some of these softwares I use. And I didn't know about building like a replens list. And I didn't know about like tactical arbitrage. And I didn't know about storefront stalking. I didn't know what I was doing. Like this was completely new to me. So I drove her absolutely mad. She ended up quitting. And I just kept sourcing and doing it on my own. And I finally figured it out over like probably 2 or 3 months. And really for about 7 months or so, I've had a full squad helping me out with sourcing. I don't source anything anymore. Last month, they sourced 850 items for me. And my sales over the last 30 days is about 30,000. Most of the items that I'm sourcing off of from eBay to Amazon is in the media category. So books, DVDs. I also do video games, board games, some puzzles, some electronics. And the typical ROI is like over 50%. Like a lot of times it's 60 to 70 to 80%. And the profit margins come out to around 40% after, you know, I pay my team and everything. So it's really solid and it's been exciting and it's been a crazy year, man.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think that's like kind of a really big takeaway. A lot of people, I'm sure you get a ton of DMs about it. It's like, oh, when should I hire like my VA, or like, when can I get a prep center? And like, you have to be able to do it. Like, how are you supposed to teach it if like you can't do it? It's just a really hard concept, I think, for people to grasp, just because maybe what they see online or whatever. But I mean, yeah, I think once you could get it down, and like you said, you did it for like 2 or 3 months, obviously. And I think it's a good lesson for everyone. Like, you could have quit like when she quit, because you're like, this isn't inefficient. I'm tired of like sourcing myself. Like this, it's just not going to work. But instead you went back down and was like, all right, like, how can I make this work? Like, how is this going to happen?
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, if I could go back in time, what I would have probably done was spend more time networking with people like yourself, Flip for Miles, Fields of Profit, you know, Avery, people who are already established Amazon sellers. Because, you know, when I was trying to outsource, I was having my team, or at least the one girl that I was working with, she was using Keepa completely wrong and making bad buying decisions because of, you know who. We didn't have seller amp. We did everything inefficiently. We didn't have spreadsheets. I mean, so it was taking her 7, 8 hours to source 7 or 8 items, and so inexpensive to hire labor, you know, overseas, that it still was worth it. But, you know, my team is 10 times more efficient now. So I wish that if I could have gone back in time, for the people listening, learn how to do things the right way, the efficient way, the way that your mentors and everybody is doing it before you try to outsource it. Because if you outsource a bad system, you're just going to accelerate a bad system. You're just going to amplify a bad system, which a bad system creates bad results.
Yeah, no, when I got my first VA too, it was, I got a lot of help from Warner because he's had a lot of experience hiring them. And geez, like, it saved me so much time. Like, just some stuff I wouldn't have thought about, like give them a test, like have them put like a specific keyword in the email, so you could just weed through them, and then you get them, and then you're like, okay, like, how are they going to submit the leads? How am I going to give them like access to my account? Like, there's so many things that have to be like checked off and like figured out before, like, because then you're going to bring them on and they're going to be like, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So like, I don't want to work for him kind of deal. But, or you could be upfront, which I was with the first VA I have. I was like, I've never done this before. Like, we're going to figure this out together. Like, if you're good with that, like, cool. If not, like, I'll find someone else. And he was. And now, like, we have a pretty good system in place where he's consistently finding like good stuff. How many people are on your team? Are you actually purchasing the stuff, or are they purchasing it for you? And how would that work?
Yeah. So I think right now in my Amazon business, I have 2 girls who are full-time. So they both work between 40 to 50 hours a week. And one of them, she strictly just sources, and she purchases and buys on my behalf. My other virtual assistant, she was full-time sourcing, but my systems have improved so much to where we don't need 2 people sourcing full-time. So she's actually helping with Be Cool. She's doing all the repricing for me. What else is she doing? She's doing quite a few different tasks. She manages the team. We have another person that we're training right now to start helping with sourcing, because right now I'm at around 30,000 in sales and I want to get to 40,000. So we are going to have to source more items. So we're training somebody right now. I have another person. All she does is she's part-time. She works on spreadsheets. So everything in the business is documented: how much we spend, how much we make, our average selling price, reconciling shipments, organizing all the leads. We have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly breakdowns of like exactly how the business is doing, from tracking our IPI to tracking our restock limits to tracking our refund rate, our amount of refunds, a lot of different things. So a lot of people would be like, it's not worth it to spend like $200-300 a month on that, which is all I pay. But you need to have optics in your business. If you don't know, like, and I'll give you an example. Last week, my sales dropped like 25% in 1 week. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, like off the top. I looked into the numbers and I noticed not as many items had sold. So I was like, why did not as many items sell? And I realized I had an issue with my repricer where items, Amazon has to communicate with Be Cool. The API connects and it sends over the items. But what was happening is there was some issue where it wasn't communicating properly. So I had to go in and I had over 600 items that hadn't been repriced because I had a bunch of shipments check in. I'm like, that's the issue right there. So just by being able to kind of see that right there, it helped me have optics and to see what was going on in my business, because there's so many moving parts the more you grow, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. And so is this like a spreadsheet that you made yourself? Are you using software or?
Yeah, just spreadsheets that we've built over time. We probably have like 5 or 6 different spreadsheets that we work on, from just tracking sales to tracking what we buy to tracking all the different things. But yeah, that's all she does. And we have another person, all she does, it's part-time. She just works on stranded inventory. We were talking about it on my channel. Shout out to Avery. He hooked me up with his girl, and she's fixing all the stranded inventory, because I'll tell you right now, if I spend more than 20 minutes a week having to deal with that, you ain't going to see me on YouTube anymore.
Yeah, no. And that's awesome too, because I need to get better, like you and Avery, at like outsourcing. That's kind of a real weak spot for me. Getting the VA to source is great, but I'm still doing like all kind of stuff that I shouldn't be doing, like repricing and kind of refunds and all that other stuff. So I really could like up my game there. What some mistakes that you think you've made along the way, or maybe some tips that maybe people won't realize? It's funny now, like I feel you probably have the same thing. Like we talk a lot, or you talk to, like we just talk, like we understand. But like for people who are just getting started, like they're like, what? Like what's a repricer? Like they're not sure.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest mistake that I made, it all comes down to I didn't understand how to read data properly. And I didn't realize that at scale, cash flow becomes the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I come from a thrifting background where I didn't have to worry about cash flow. I remember there was a friend of mine, John Cleater. I don't know if you know him, popular. He was I believe he's a 7-figure Amazon seller still. He does a lot of RAOA. He had asked me on a live stream like 3-4 years ago, like, what do you pay yourself? And I thought to myself, what do you mean? What do I pay myself? I pay myself everything. Like I just have a bank account. It all goes in. I don't have to worry about cash flow. I'm buying items for $1 or $2 and selling it for 30. Cash flow. Bro, what are you talking about? Yeah. But now that I'm doing online arbitrage, you have to be very, very careful what you put your money into, because the biggest expense outside of your Amazon fees is going to be your cost of goods, the items that you're purchasing. So as your business starts to grow, to maintain your sales, you have to spend more and more money. And if you're spending a bunch of money on items that become stale, that don't move, your money's just stuck in your inventory and you're not able to get the profits out to reinvest, to grow. So I didn't fully understand how to use Keepa. That was a huge mistake. There's a lot of things that every seller should know about Keepa, like how to check buy box statistics, how to understand how to read the buy box, understanding what a suppressed buy box is, understanding how to read how many sellers have been on that listing and how the price changes. And a big game changer for me was using the Chrome extension Seller Amp. And for one main reason, it shares with you how many estimated sales are coming about for that product per month. And just as an example, in the past, I would be buying DVDs that were 100,000 rank, 120, 140,000. And I'm like, it's an 80, 90%, 100% ROI. Like, of course I'm going to put my money into it. I'll spend $45 on this, but some of these items would sit for 6 to 8 to 9 months. And while it's still a good return, and I would still happily make 90% in 8 months, over time, if your inventory becomes built upon slow moving items, you run out of cash and you run out of being able to, you aren't able to seize opportunities. So now I have a rule where I'm really trying to focus on DVDs that are between like 30 to 80,000 rank that have at least 7 sales per month. Whereas some of these DVDs that are over 100,000 rank only have 1 or 2 sales a quarter or 1 or 2 sales every few months. So that's just one example.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And yeah, I do think there's definitely something to be said for almost, I could do a better job of this as well. But I feel like with Amazon is you could either learn the lesson once or you could like repeat it a couple of times. Like there are a couple of listings, like for example, there's some cat food that I was selling and the listing was very familiar. It was very similar to one that I did 6 months ago. And that didn't end well because Amazon came back in stock and I lost a bunch of money on it. And I was like, like maybe this time, like, I think this keep it chart looks better. It's like they haven't been. And like, sure enough, as soon as it went to app, so like now it's like, you know what, like stay away from this stuff. Like, you know, like from the past, this is what happened. And not like it's always going to happen, but like to know that rule to be like, listen, if Amazon has been in stock within like the last 90 days, like just stay away from it and like kind of move on, find something else.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I like about my business model. I never compete with Amazon. And I actually, most of the items I pick up from even, you know, DVDs to CDs to board games to video games, they're discontinued. These are items that are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I'm not going after DVDs. I'm not going after CDs. I'm not going after board games or video games that are anywhere near something new or popular nowadays. And there are listings where Amazon is actually in stock for like 9 years after it came out, which is crazy. But yeah, Amazon, again, you know, we were talking about on my channel, they're just so savage. It's crazy. They won't share the buy box. Sometimes they do, and you could see that in Keepa, but I don't miss having to compete with Amazon.
That would be, yeah, that is always nice. And yeah, for stuff we sell, I mean, we kind of sell a lot of Nike because we know Amazon's not going to sell Nike. So that's kind of like a safer route. But I guess that's like a really big advantage that you have. Like, what are some of the advantages that you think the eBay to Amazon flips are?
Yeah.
And then some of the disadvantages.
Yeah. So I think another advantage is, you know, you don't really have like price wars. There are, of course, always those special, I call them special sellers who just love to like tank the price. Like you can have a beautiful Keepa chart. The buy box is steady at 60, 70 bucks all day long. The rank is really great. And like they have to come in at 25 and then everyone's got their repricer set up wrong. They drop the whole market and it'll get eaten up and the price will go back up. But, you know, with my types of items, they're not like super fast sellers. So I don't want my money sitting there for 3, 4, 5 months. I'm trying to flip my stuff within, you know, 30 or 60 days. So I think that is an advantage to not have to be dealing with tons of sellers. And you're not going to have liquidators or wholesalers or even Amazon coming into stock. So I really like that. There's more price stability. I would say the biggest downside, I don't think there's a lot of downsides, but the one downside that really stinks is you're playing a game of Russian roulette with doing anything like thrift stores, garage sales, eBay to Amazon flips, anything without an invoice. The big benefit of RA, OA, wholesale is you have that invoice. You can prove chain of custody. And, you know, I've sold over 5,000 items in the last year. I have friends of mine who are doing 60, 70, 80. I have a friend who's close to 100K doing eBay to Amazon flips. And I have one friend who's gotten like over 12 IPs and like they've never had any issues. I think a lot of it comes down to luck. A lot of it comes down to your account age, right? If you have a brand new account and you get an IP, like you're probably going to be toast or you're going to have to create like a plan of action. I haven't had any issues. I have a lot of systems in place to do my best to make sure I'm selling authentic items and I'm not going to have problems. I don't use a prep center for that reason. And I have some really great systems actually with virtual assistants who list my items, which I forgot to mention. One of the girls, she does all my listings through Exceller list and all I have to do is label it. But that's the biggest downside. And that's the thing that worries me most with this business model. That's why I'm looking into wholesale because I know the more I scale this business, the better chance I have that the bullet is going to come out of the chamber right at my head. So
yeah.
But even if it hit me once or twice or 3 times, a lot of people are so nervous. Like, oh my God, you're going to get an IP or a counterfeit claim and you're gone. You could, or you may not, because I know people have 10, 12, 15. I know people have like, I know some big sellers now have like 50 IPs on their account. But I think a lot of it has to do with like how much volume you do and your inventory age. So it's a risk I'm willing to take right now, but I know it's a dangerous risk the bigger I get.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm looking at too, as like after I spent 35K this month on inventory, and it's like, dang, like the week starts tomorrow or the new month starts tomorrow, like to replicate that, like yeah, I have some replens and stuff like that, but like, you know, to kind of just keep ramping it up. But like if you have wholesale and like you could just place orders and orders and orders over and over again, that's definitely
just the margins. That's what I love so much about this business model that I'm doing is the margins are so healthy. Like I still am not paying myself now because I've scaled really quickly. I'm actually planning on possibly starting to pay myself once I hit 40K and then maybe transition into wholesale. We'll see. I don't know. I love the eBay to Amazon flips because I'm really only spending like 5 to 10 hours a week. I have a system in place where I have someone who helps open up all the packages and we put everything in a box. And this is an interesting system. It's kind of gangster, but what we do is we take a picture of every single item that's going into a box. Takes us about 5 or 10 minutes. And then we drop it into a Google Drive. And then my virtual assistant who makes $350 an hour actually goes in and lists every single item within a batch inside of Exceller list. So they choose the condition, the price, they create the whole batch. And literally all I do is jump into the batch, spend 2 minutes to double check the pricing. They've been trained intensely how to price and everything. And then I just label it. So it saves me, you know, I'm probably only spending like what, 10 minutes a shipment instead of an hour before. So, you know, I mean, I could double this and still not be spending that much time. It's just, again, you know, the whole chain of custody thing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And yeah, there's something to be said for that too. Like I saw someone the other day, they did like, I think $250,000 this month. And they, in their Instagram post, they were just like, we're good with this. Like, we don't want to go any further. We want to spend time with our kids. Like, we don't want to hire help. And that's kind of their route. And you could kind of go, you could put a ton in, like you could work 40 or 50 hours a week, or you could work like 10, and it just really depends.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I got it in my genes. I always want to build it bigger and bigger. But as we were talking behind the scenes, like you were sharing, like the bigger your business builds, it's like you have more headaches you have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one side effect. Last question. If you were basically, you weren't Steve Raiken, you were just getting started, you didn't really have a network, and you had about $1,000, what would you be doing to get to where you are today again?
Man, you already know what we're doing. We hit in the thrift stores. We going into the book section. We going to the libraries. We're going to Book Sale Finder, finding the library sales. We're putting wanted ads on Facebook Marketplace and Nextdoor for free book pickups. And we're just hustling hard. There's so many opportunities to start selling on Amazon with books. And there's a lot of people, friends, family, foreclosure companies, real estate agents, liquidation companies who just don't want the books. And, books are one of the easiest ways to start on a budget, low risk, not a ton of restrictions outside of popular textbooks. And you could really learn, again, how to use Keepa, how to use SellerAmp, how to scan books, how to analyze, how to ship without having to drop, you know, thousands. What, you spent 35,000 this month on inventory? I spent around 18,000. And, you know, it's like, it's a lot of money to spend. And, you know, as I was saying before, you can pay yourself fairly quick thrifting, but with our business model, you can put up big numbers, but the cost of goods is so high that you really can't pay yourself until you build this like big snowball of like 40, 50, 60, 80K a month to really start paying yourself anything substantial. Right. So,
and that's the hardest part about this, because I kind of learned that the hard way back in, I don't know when it was, but a couple months ago. Basically, I was like, oh, I spent like 20,000. I was like, I'm used to spending like $4,000 or $5,000 on books like a month, right? So 4 times as much. And then I'm like, well, I'm just going to like see if this stuff sells. And it all sold. And then I was like so far behind, because by the time like I was able to build that up again, it's like another 6 to 8 weeks. So now I'm like in that scary place again where like I just spent 35 and I kind of have to do it again to like keep this thing rolling. But I'm at the point where probably in like the next 4 to 6 weeks, that'll all like come back, and then like we'll be good to go. So it's always, you always got to kind of like push that envelope smartly, obviously.
Yes, sir.
And no go for all the credit. Well, thanks for dropping your knowledge, hanging out. Go follow Steve. He's at Raiken Profit, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, pretty much anywhere. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, appreciate you, John. Thanks for sharing a bunch of knowledge as well. And yeah, hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, guys, see you in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me. And check out the free resources below for you guys. And I will see you guys in the next video.